everybody, this is Miss Bufford, and in this video we're going to talk about states of matter. So your learning goals for this video are to be able to compare the compressibility, structure, shape, and volume of solids, liquids, and gases. And so, like I said in this video, we're just going to focus on the three main states of matter that we come in contact with on most days, which would be solids, liquids, and gases. There are other states of matter. There's some really cool states of matter that you've never heard of before. And then the one that I always get asked about every year is plasma. And yes, plasma is a state of matter, but it's not in this video. So maybe we'll get to talk about that later on this semester or next semester. So the first thing we're going to talk about is solids. Some characteristics of solids that are important to keep in mind are that they have a definite shape. So they tend to be rigid. They don't take the shape of their container or anything. They just have their own definite shape. They also have their own definite volume. So they take up a certain amount of space for every unit of mass that they have. And they have molecules or atoms that are in a solid are arranged in regular patterns. Right, so they're tightly packed in these regular patterns. They are not compressible, and what I mean by compressibility is that there's not a lot of space between the particles in a solid. So they tend to be packed pretty tight together, and they do have kinetic energy. Everything that's above absolute zero has kinetic energy. So they can, vibrate a little bit in place, but they're just really packed so tightly that they just can't really break free of that organized structure that they have. And because of that, they also cannot be compressed into a smaller volume. So we can't squeeze the particles in a solid together into a solid or into a smaller volume. All right. And these have, like we said, they do have kinetic energy, but they have less kinetic energy than a liquid or a gas state. All right, so now let's talk about liquids. So some characteristics of liquids that are important to know are that they have an indefinite shape. They can take the shape of whatever container you put them in. They have very fluid movement with their particles. They have a very definite volume though. So when we fill a container with a liquid, they fill that container from the bottom up, and we can actually read the amount of volume that they've got in a graduated cylinder or something like that. So they have a definite volume. And their molecules or atoms, they slide or roll past one another. So there's really no organized structure here, but they do stay clumped together. So they can't break free from the pack and fly off unless they become a gas. So they stay clumped together, pretty closely packed, definitely not as tightly packed as they are in a solid, because now they have a little bit more kinetic energy and they can kind of roll around one another. You can think of them kind of like as marbles in a jar rolling around each other. But yeah, so they're not tightly packed, but not flying freely like a gas. And so when we talk about compressibility with liquids, they are slightly more compressible than solids, but they're still really not highly compressible. They can be compressed, but the compression is not extreme like you would see with a gas. And then energy. So they have more kinetic energy than solids, but less than gases. All right, so now let's talk about gases. So these have an indefinite shape. They can take the shape of the container that they fill, but when a gas fills a container, it fills the entire container. It's not just filling from the bottom up like a liquid would. It just expands and it fills the whole volume of that container. And so they also have indefinite volumes. So indefinite shape, they take the shape of that container, and an indefinite volume, they expand to fill the entire volume of that container. As far as structure goes, their particles, they just move freely, bouncing off the surfaces, bouncing off one another, colliding with one another. They have a lot of space in between them. So they've got just so much kinetic energy that they're just in constant motion. As far as compressibility goes, gases are really extremely compressible. So we can squeeze, gas into a teeny tiny space, or we can let it expand and fill an entire room. So gases are really compressible. And then energy. So these contain more kinetic energy than solids and liquids. So of the three types of matter or states that we're talking about in this video, gases have the most kinetic energy. All right, so here is just a little recap of everything that we just talked about with solids, liquids, and gases. If you're one of my students, then this is the chart that will show up in your OneNote notebook and the notes for building block 3 for this unit. So you want to go ahead and log into OneNote and make sure that you fill that out in your notes. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have questions. You're welcome to email me or message me through It's Learning. Thank you for watching Buffer Chemistry. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more chemistry help.